Hello, everyone. My name is Tim B. Green, and this is Crush It Club 55. Let's see, we get this here. The 7 levers of influence, loss, aversion. So this episode, let's call this the dark episode, because loss aversion is, let's put it this way. Loss aversion is basically our disproportionate aversion to loss compared to gain. It turns out we hate losing about twice as much as we like gaining. Before we get into that, though, I'm going to tell you, so today is there's only one more talk, and that will be my talk coming up at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Marketing Success Summit. I'll put the link in the description. Would love to have you join me there. And then there's also one more talk tomorrow by Lorraine Duncan, and her talk is at 10 a.m. EST, and that is Relational Social Media for the Win. I believe she's a LinkedIn expert in particular, but it should be pretty exciting to see what she has to say for that talk. So let's get on with this. So I already said what loss aversion was. It's not scarcity in that it's we don't like when we don't have enough of something, and we do perceive that as more valuable because there's less of it. But loss aversion, we really hate. Now, there's a book that came out a number of years ago, a very famous pair of scientists, which would be Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. They gained the Nobel Prize for bridging psychology with economics and inventing, in essence, the field of behavioral economics with their work in what they called prospect theory. And it was the research, or some of the research that they did, I believe, that showed specifically testing. Would people rather gain $10? How much would they need to gain to offset the feeling of loss, and vice versa? And so they did some interesting tests. We don't have our experiments. We don't have time to go into the details of, but it was pretty clear that it seems that we hate losing about twice as much as we like gaining. And there's some debate about that. But if you have any questions about it, think to yourself, have you ever lost? I mean, $10 isn't that big of a deal. It sucks. But have you ever lost $100? And how long and how much it sort of upset you that you lost this money compared to gaining $100? And you go, that's great. You feel happy and it's good. But at least for myself, from that experience alone, I would say it's definitive that the 2X factor is pretty accurate from my own experience, and that's what their research said too. There's some debate, but I think it's pretty weak, honestly. So let's talk about this. So when it comes to taking loss aversion and using it in your marketing, I think you have to be very careful, because you could easily become unethical if you start to exaggerate too much. So we're going to talk about how that goes. So essentially, since loss aversion is basically framing a loss or lack of gain as a loss in using your services or buying your products. So it'd be like, just think of all the money you're losing by not using my consulting services. If I could increase your conversion rate, if I could increase your marketing by 10% over the next year, how much money would you gain? And then go, that's how much money you're losing if you don't engage my services. There would be an example of a loss aversion frame, right? So you take even something that they stand to gain, you show them both sides. It's like, you'll gain this, but if you don't do it, you will lose this. And the psychological impact is people hate to lose twice as much. So if it's like, you could gain $10,000 in income, but when you say, if you don't do it, you will lose $10,000 in income, psychologically, it will feel more like a loss of $20,000 in income, and tend to drive them into action and to purchase of that sale. So you can see how this is both powerful and needs to be used appropriately. So I think this is why it's especially important to be hyper ethical and hyper honest when doing some numbers. At least make them transparent so that they can say, okay, yeah, that sounds realistic. I know what my numbers are. 10% extra would be this, or 5% extra would be that, so as not to unduly manipulate them to fake numbers. Because influence and manipulation, you could say that manipulation is the dark side of influence. We always influence one another, poorly or well, unintentionally or intentionally. But if we start doing it for our interest above our customers, to me, that's manipulation rather than influence. But we can also do it in the positive side, which is, here is the truth of what you will lose, and here is the truth of what you will gain. If you make that hyperbolic, if you exaggerate that, I think that's inappropriate, and I don't think you should go there. If you feel like you're going to do that, I think you should stay away from loss aversion frames. But you also see it all the time in advertising, so you need to be aware of this effect anyway. So I think what's especially important, as I said, to be really, really ethical about the way you use this, to be honest in your numbers, honest in the expression of loss that you describe if you're going to use it to sell your products. And so finally, knowing what you know, or what I've taught you over the last 6 minutes or so, here's what you can do, because other people are using it and not all of them are ethical actors. So what you can do is you can use what you now know to defend yourself and your loved ones against unethical use of these frames. So the way you do that, I'm not saying this is easy, but it is possible, is to be mindful of what they're doing. So when they start talking about what they're going to lose, what they will fail to gain, you go, okay, this is a loss aversion frame. And that's cool. So then what you do is now that you're mindful of it, as they do it, you're conscious. So if they start making ridiculous claims or numbers, you know they're ridiculous because you know your business better than they do. And then that's what you should do. You should ask, okay, is what they're saying realistic? Is this the kind of loss I would incur, assuming the product works as they claim? And if it does work as they claim, or more accurately, if it doesn't work as they claim, what are they going to do? Do they have an unconditional money-back guarantee, provided I've taken the appropriate action or steps described to make the product work effectively? And if that's the case, ask them, what happens if I take your product, I do these steps and it doesn't work? What will you do? And if they say, well, nothing, it's not on us, I would just not use that product, because you're qualifying it as you've taken the necessary steps. And if they won't honor it even under those conditions, don't do business with them, period. That's my very honest opinion about that. So you be mindful about what they're doing, ask whether the losses they say you will incur are realistic, and if they are, then make the best, most rational decision you can. If they pressure you, right, the scarcity and the loss aversion, okay, this offer only comes up once. If you don't get it now, you lose it forever. Another higher pressure loss aversion tactic that you often see. Ask yourself, am I willing to lose this money if this doesn't work? If it does, go ahead and buy it at that one-time only price. If not, say, yeah, no thanks, or I'll consider it and get back to you. And if they say, yeah, but you won't have the same price, you could say, that's fine, right? Call them on their bluff. If you're willing to lose it, pay the money and understand that you've already decided you're willing to lose it if they aren't going to honor whatever sort of guarantee they might have, which you've already called them out on. Okay, so, and then that's sort of the last phase of it to defend yourself against this, is saying, this is all great and stuff, and you make big claims. Are you going to honor your guarantee? And have them declare it, ideally publicly and in detail, like on a Zoom call. It's like, oh, yeah, no, well, 30-day money-back guarantee no matter what. It's like, great, thank you. I just have 500 witnesses on the Zoom call. Now you're in a good position. So, and I'm going to do one last thing here, and that is, this is some of the ways you can use and defend against loss aversion frames, which are not good or evil. It's just how people apply them. The final thing I'm going to do is tomorrow I'm going to have another video talking about loss aversion pricing. That's using this natural evolutionary loss aversion that we all have in such a way where you can use it to motivate positive change. My name is Tim B. Green. This has been Crush It Club, episode 55, The 7 Levers of Influence, Loss Aversion. Bye for now.